Hello, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Pooja Patel. I'm a part of the NSX product management team. And today we are here to talk about the new innovations on VMware NSX, which our CEO Raghu just introduced in the keynote in the morning. We are here to talk about NSX Plus. Before I go and talk about NSX Plus, let me give you a quick recap of what NSX is. NSX is VMware's flagship network virtualization and security platform. Just like ESX virtualizes compute, NSX virtualizes the network by providing a variety of networking and security services and software. Some of the services we provide in software are switching, routing, and distributed firewalling. Those are the services we originally started with. But over the past years, we have added a bunch of new capabilities to the NSX stack. We are now able to connect, secure, and observe not just VMs running on vSphere, but we can provide connectivity and security to physical servers as well as containers. A few years ago, we launched our multi-site, multi-location capabilities as well. So you can manage DR or multiple locations on-premise if you like. Over the past few years, we've done some acquisitions like the AVI, which gives us load balancer capabilities, the WAF and the GSLB capabilities, as well as we have launched some advanced security and threat prevention capabilities like the Layer 7 App ID firewalls, IDS IPS, malware detection and response, etc. Last but not the least, our customers want to actually see what is going on in their network. So we have launched a data platform, and the data platform is called NSX Application Platform. And this is the platform where we actually visualize the flow data, provide recommendations, do cool stuff like time series metrics, threat correlations, etc. So on top of all the features, we have policy, visibility, analytics, troubleshooting, and monitoring for everything we do. So we have a lot of customers who have deployed this stack over the years in their data centers. What we're seeing is a lot of our customers are on their hybrid cloud, multi-cloud journey. Multi-cloud is no longer aspirational, and it has become a reality for a lot of our customers. They're growing their workloads in their on-premise data centers as well as in hybrid cloud locations, third-party managed cloud locations, even the native public cloud and retail edge locations. So workloads are growing everywhere, and customers need a way to manage all these different silos which have been created. They need a way to consistently manage networking, policy, security across these different clouds. When we talk to customers, they're looking for an easy way to see what is going on in their network, to visualize how are the security policies configured, how are flows going across these different clouds. And all this is only possible if you have a common cloud operating model, if you have a product or an offering which would give you a single pane of glass to connect and observe and secure all these different silos. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to help our customers on this multi-cloud network and security standardization as they go on this journey. So today we are very happy to officially launch VMware NSX Plus. VMware NSX Plus is our foray into SaaS-based cloud-managed services for the NSX networking and security portfolio. So what we are going to do here is we are going to offer our customers multi-cloud networking and security services delivered from the cloud. So customers will be able to log into a single portal and consume these different services, visualize things, create security policies, operate this network from a single pane of glass. So as part of this NSX Plus launch, we are going to launch 5 services. The first service we are going to launch is the NSX Plus Policy Management. And what the service will do for the customer is they will enable customers to manage multiple NSX locations from the cloud. The second service we are going to launch is the NSX Plus Intelligence. which will allow customers to do flow visualization and policy recommendations across multiple locations. The third service we are going to launch is the NSX Plus Network Detection and Response, which will allow customers to triage the threats and the various IDPS events, etc., happening in their network and correlate all of them and give like a campaign which aligns to the MITRE ATT&CK framework. The fourth service we are going to launch is the NSX Plus ALB Cloud Services, which is our advanced load balancing services, where you will be able to orchestrate different load balancers from the cloud. So the controller will be in the cloud orchestrating these load balancers. And last but not the least, HCX Plus is our migration service, which will help customers move their workloads from one location to the other location, from on-premise to managed VMware clouds, etc. When we launch this offer today, the NSX Plus Policy Management is available for customers to use. The other two services, NSX Plus Intelligence and the NSX Plus NDR, or Network Detection and Response, are not initially available, but the free trials are on. So we encourage all of you to go and subscribe for these free trials from the cloud and try out these products. Today, the products are available to manage NSX managers running in different private cloud locations, but the product is built in such a way that we will be able to wire up public cloud, native public cloud instances, any of our VMC or VMware Cloud Managed offerings, as well as sovereign clouds and edge locations to the NSX Plus SaaS service. So that's the idea. Any questions? Great. So we are going to have presentations, detailed presentations on all these 5 services, but let me start with NSX Plus Policy Management. So what this service does, it allows customers to do multi-cloud security policy configuration and management. So you can go and configure networking as well as security policies from the VMware Cloud Console. The user can log in and write different kinds of policies, including distributed firewall policies, gateway firewall policies, and distributed IDS IPS policies, which span multiple locations. So that's the innovation we are providing there. The single cloud console will also have built-in network operations across the different sites. So you will be able to see alarms across sites. You will be able to search across sites. You'll be able to do things like centralized lifecycle management, upgrade recommendations, manage your licensing. Managing VMware licensing can also get to be an effort. So now we're trying to simplify it. All the licenses are in the cloud. The subscriptions are activated from the cloud. Monitoring, etc., trace flow, everything will be accessible from the cloud console, which will make NSX across locations truly easy to operate. Another big innovation we are launching as part of this launch is what we called vProjects and vPCs. So NSX has traditionally provided some form of multi-tenancy by using things like VRFs, etc. We did not have true object-level multi-tenancy in the past. So with the NSX 4.x release, we have the ability to define multiple tenants and delegate those tenants to different lines of businesses. So think about this like a walled garden where your lines of businesses can do certain things under your supervision. So the multi-tenancy model, we are launching 2 objects. The first construct we are launching to simplify multi-tenancy is called a project. What a project is it's basically a tenant, and it can span multiple sites in NSX Plus. So that's the first innovation we are doing. The second innovation we are doing is your lines of businesses may not be experts at NSX. They may not understand what a tier 0 is, what a tier 1 is, what a logical segment is. So to simplify self-service consumption for your lines of businesses or your tenants, we are introducing what we call as the NSX VPC or the NSX Virtual Private Cloud as a cloud consumption unit. So your lines of businesses, if they want to do some basic networking and security configuration, they don't need to be experts in NSX, and they'll have some simplified constructs which they can play with.
So, quick question on this one.
Sure.
Multi-tenancy. And maybe you'll touch on it, but I'm curious, like, is the multi-tenancy and the management of it designed for a company that wants to segregate their different business units, or is it built with kind of service providers in mind?
Great question. So the way the multi-tenancy is built is we understand it's not one size fits all. NSX customers, we have a range of customers, right from financials to healthcare verticals, as well as big service providers who buy our products and then use it to provide things like firewall as a service. We have container customers who provide container service providers who provide namespace as a service on top of NSX. So the way we've tried to build this model is enterprise admins can use it to segregate different lines of businesses, as well as service providers can use it for multi-tenancy. Now, networking and security multi-tenancy alone may not be enough for the service provider. The service provider may still need to figure out the compute and the storage multi-tenancy.
Is there going to be ties into vCloud Director?
Yes, we do have plans on the roadmap to integrate this with vCloud Director and make vCloud Director consumption even more efficient and easy. So let's walk through what we are really doing, and then I'm going to hand it over to Andrew to walk you through VPCs in more detail. So the enterprise admin can go and define NSX Plus projects. They can log in into the Cloud Console, and they can define different projects. And they can assign a different user to be the project admin. You could have a project admin A, a project admin B. Now, within the realm of a project, each project has its own RBAC, has its own object configurations, has its own UI, API, logging, and monitoring. So it's true multi-tenancy. And within the project, the line of business can do whatever tasks the enterprise admin has allowed them to do. And with NSX Plus, the other interesting thing is this multi-tenancy construct can span multiple locations. So let's say you are building a hybrid cloud and your line of business needs some workloads running on multiple clouds. How do you still really do tenancy? So we are launching true multi-cloud tenancy with this project object here, which is pretty cool and only available with NSX Plus. Now, let us go and introduce the second level of granular tenancy within the project. Like I was mentioning, we want to expose very, very simplified constructs which are inspired by the public cloud consumption model. So your end consumer does not need to learn what a tier 0 is, what a tier 1 is, and the different NSX terminology. So we're very proud to announce the NSX VPC inspired by the public cloud model, which is, again, a granular tenancy model within the project. So it provides a turnkey configuration of the NSX features inside the VPC. So if you see inside, it's very, very similar to the public cloud model. You have an elastic IP, you have a web segment, so everything is NATed out, going out, and then you have the VPC policies running. So I'm going to hand it over to Andrew here to do a quick VPC demo. Sure. Sure.
So is there any automation aspects built into the idea of projects where you could potentially move tenants from one data center to another based on load or that type of thing?
Great question. So whatever we do is always API first. So we have APIs to basically have the workloads attached to a particular DV port group, and which will be associated with the project. For the moves, it will depend on what your compute basically supports. Your regular network attach, detach should be able to work. And again, this is the first release, so this will evolve more. Today, the VPCs, as you can observe, are within a single site only. So we do have plans to not stretch not just projects, but also VPCs across multiple locations in upcoming releases. So that's kind of the plan. So let me hand it over to Andrew to quickly give you a customer-centric view of how to use projects and VPCs and do a quick demo. And then I'll come back to talk about the rest of the services.
Hey everyone, how's it going? My name is Andrew, and we're going to go through a little bit of the VPC. So we're going to do a live demo. First off, well, it's a recorded demo, but it was live at the time. And I'm going to go through a couple slides, and then we'll walk through the process. If we have any questions, feel free to ask, and I'm more than happy to help out here. So going back to your question earlier, you had a question about enterprises doing this or service providers. The answer really is both. Both could do this, but we're going to focus more on the enterprise side. And just because we have VPCs, we want to be able to enable the end users, the application owners, the developers, to be able to have access. But there's still going to need to be enterprise guardrails. So we were talking earlier about a project and then a VPC living inside of it. So in this case, we would say that the security team would go in and they would create the enterprise security policy within the project. Now remember, this is outside of the scope of the VPC. This is how we can set corporate guidelines, making sure that there's policy in there to allow them to not do anything that would go against compliancy or anything else that maybe the company has. Now within that project here, we create, in this example, a finance VPC and an engineering VPC. Now this is where all the policy, this is where the workloads, everything lives. The groups, normal things that we have in NSX today, now they're actually contained within this, and we can apply role-based access to them, just like the project. So within there, we'll have a finance team, we'll assign role-based access to them. They have management domain over the finance VPC, and the engineering team has management domain over the engineering team. Now off of that then, each one can create their own security policy, which applies to the policy and their network policy that's built in there. So this is how we can ensure that if they were to create, let's say in finance VPC, in IP any allow, it's only going to affect their VPC, it won't affect engineering, and we still have that enterprise security policy to stop anything bad from happening. So we recognize that just because we're giving them great power doesn't mean that the enterprise doesn't need to have some type of watch over what's going on in the corporate network. So in this next slide here, we're going to go jump in a little bit deeper into how this is done. So what happens when we create a VPC? Well, first off, the infrastructure team is going to go in, they're going to create a project. They'll go into the default org, and then they'll create the VPC. Now, a lot happens here. What's happening is, first off, a tier 1's being created, and it's connecting off to a shared tier 0 that's in the project. Now, why is this important? Because remember, we have the application teams. They may not understand how to be able to subnet. They're not going to want to understand how to do routing like BGP and all these other complexities that are there. They're not going to need to know how to be able to take a /22 and bring that down into a smaller segment to fit 16 or 32 workloads. So we're going to take care of that for them. Now, just to step back a bit, in the project, if we have a project admin that does have network knowledge, they can still go through and create tier 1s, and they can have that connect off to the shared segments. They can create private segments. They could still do east-west firewall rules. That's that enterprise guidelines that we talked about. All those things are still possible, but now we can delegate role-based access to the application teams inside the VPC where they only have their control. Now, once the application teams have control of it, what can they do? Well, they can make security rules, they can make VPC routes, and those are static routes that are on the tier 1. We're not giving them access to the shared tier 0. We're not letting them override BGP. We're not letting them do anything that we don't want them to do, and most likely they don't want to concern themselves with. They only have access into their VPC. They can create normal groups that can apply to policy, and of course they can create subnets. When they create these subnets, they associate those VMs to the VNICs into these, and that's how they associate to the VPC, and they're shown in the inventory. Now let's actually show how this is done. Now it seems like it's complex, but it's pretty simple. We're going to go and we're going to show a couple of the share components first. So in this, we see at the top there, we have our projects area. In this case, we're going to go in and we're going to show that shared tier 0 that we were talking about. Now this is something that the enterprise or the infrastructure admin would create. We have an edge cluster here. We have setting up a BGP to show that we have it going down to the underlay. It's going to share out routes. It's going to learn routes, all those things. And I'm just highlighting the fact that I've set up a BGP neighbor relationship to someone down, on the underlay network. So that's all there. The next thing we want to do, and this is optional for the project, and this could be added later on, but we're going to create an external segment. Now this is what's used for NATing. So when we create a project or we create a VPC, we can allow external segments or we can allow snatting. And it will automatically be created in the VPC, so they don't even have to worry about setting up NAT. Yet again, we want to make this easy for the application owners. They need to be able to, they want to be concerned with making their policy and their load balancing and their groups, and then move on to coding. And remember, this is all driven by UI and also API. So we're going to create an external segment here, make it a /24. We'll set the visibility to external, showing that there is an option for private if you want to, but in this case, we're making external. And we're good to go. Now the next part is we're going to go ahead and create that project. So in the next scene, we're going to go up and show those same shared components that we just displayed here, and we're going to assign them to the project themselves. So we go in here, and this would be a tenant. Now, if this were a service provider, this could be, a customer of some sort or whatever. But in this case, we're going to say that it's Acme Engineering. They have an engineering department here. We're going to associate that tier 0 that we just showed, edge cluster that's associated with it. And then finally, that external block that we'll use for NATing or external segments that are within the VPC. Those are directly routed. Any private segments would be hiding behind that SNAT that I talked about just earlier. And to show that these things are malleable, I can show that I can add tier 0s, I can add clusters, I can add more external segments as they grow. So it's not just set it and then, can't do anything with it. So now let's move on. We have a /22 there. That is a big range. They're probably going to need some much smaller ranges, but we're not going to have to worry about that. We set the table. That's going to be shared out, and that's going to be used for the internal segments, and we already set up that external segment that's going to be seen so it's routed in the underlay. Share tier 0 that we shared in the project. We set the external block, and there's that SNAT that I was talking about. So when we set that on, it's going to automatically create that SNAT inside of the VPC, so they automatically get connectivity out. We set the private block in the edge cluster, and that's it. Those are the steps that we needed to be able to create a VPC. It's done now. We would set role-based access to, Bob or Sue or whoever that needs access into that. And when they log in, they only have access to their VPC. And inside of that, they will go into the connectivity to be able to create their segments and their static routes. They will go to network services for more NATing or load balancing. And then finally, security for the east-west, north-south firewall rules and their groups.
Let's go back to our other services. So what we saw so far was our NSX Plus policy management service to manage multiple locations. We introduced the project construct, we introduced the VPC construct. And we looked at how we are offering NSX Plus services from the Cloud Console. Now let's talk about the second service, which is the NSX Plus Network Detection and Response service. So a few years ago, we launched the IDS IPS offering, which helps detect known threats. We actually also have a subscription to IDS IPS feeds, which we maintain. So we always get the latest and the greatest IDS IPS feeds from a cloud-based NSX Threat Intelligence Cloud service. So we have file events, we have IDPS events, etc., coming into NSX. And how do we correlate these? How do we triage them? How do we kind of scope them and align them to the MITRE ATT&CK framework and give you like a nice campaign, which actually shows you what happened? Did infiltration happen? And how did it progress through your data center? And it will give more visibility to the SOC team. So this is the initial free trial availability of the NSX Plus Network Detection and Response. It will work for NSX data centers and any NSX data center or location which has the NSX Manager installed. When we at launch, we will be able to correlate IDPS events into threat campaigns, and things like malwares and anomaly events are roadmapped, and they will be coming soon. And so what this means is the user can basically log into VMware Cloud Services, subscribe to the NSX Plus NDR service, and start getting meaningful campaigns which the security operations teams can use to figure out what is going in the network. This will work across multiple sites as well, which is pretty cool. And if you had a third-party SIEM where you wanted to export this data, that is possible as well. Stein will cover this in more detail. There's a 30-minute presentation and a demo on this. So I just wanted to introduce the service. And so this is the NSX Plus NDR for you. And now let's look at the third service, the NSX Plus Intelligence Service. So everybody wants to do zero trust. You want to be able to successfully secure your workloads, but how many people understand how the applications are communicating to each other? That's the hard thing. If you want to protect something, you want to understand and see how these applications are communicating with each other. And this problem becomes much, much harder if the applications are running on multiple locations or clouds. So how do you get visibility into the flows, and how do you understand the communication posture and translate it into corresponding meaningful policies, which helps protect your applications? This is where NSX Plus Intelligence Service comes in. It basically provides deep workload and flow visibility across all flows, and over a period of time, and you will be able to see who is talking to whom, filter it down, and we will also give you firewall rule recommendations. You can take this firewall rule recommendations, you can clean them up if you like, you can edit them, and then you can hit publish, and they will actually become a security policy for NSX. So that is the power of NSX Plus Intelligence. This is a standalone service which customers can purchase, and this service, this feature is also available on-premise, but on-premise you have to go and install the data platform, the NSX application platform. When you actually subscribe to the service in the cloud, we take care of hosting the data platform and managing lifecycle management of the data platform.
That actually brings me to a question I could have had just watching all of this. How tightly does this integrate with vCenter and the vRealize suite? Are there tie-ins to either of those?
So the integration with the vCenter is at the local site level.
Okay.
And this is tightly integrated with the vSphere Plus, as you will see in the demos. So at the local manager site, the integrations with the vCenter and the vRealize, they still stay. For objects, we do have some API objects which are just controlled from the cloud, and there we will need vRealize integration to kind of enhance their APIs or enhance their workflows to support these extra functionality which comes from the cloud.
Is this available now?
This service is available for free trial right now.
Okay.
Does it actually integrate with Log Insight as well?
So all our logs from the NSX always go anyways to log slide, and here we are going to do seam export to send logs to Splunk, to send the campaign events to Splunk also.
So you mentioned the recommendations for firewalls as part of this. In a multi-tenant type situation, where are those recommendations going to? Are they going to the people managing within the tenant, or are they going to the super managers?
Great question. The reason this service is free trial only today is we do not support the VPC construct yet on this service.
This is just the outer shell at this point.
It is just the outer shell at this point, and Ray will address this in more detail in his 30-minute presentation with the demo.
Thank you.
Quickly going through the fourth service which we are launching, that's the NSX AVI Load Balancer, or the Advanced Load Balancer controller cloud service. So the way the AVI Load Balancers work is there is a controller deployed which kind of manages the service appliances. So the various load balancers, and auto scales them, lifecycle manages them, etc. So before the service, the customer had to bear the onus of deploying this controller somewhere in the data center. With the NSX ALB Cloud Controller service, this controller will be SaaS managed. So you don't have to bother with the lifecycle management for the controller. And it will be able to spin up the AVI load balancer service appliances on the VMware cloud hyperscalers, so on VMC on AWS first. And then this will be rolled out to support on-premise and other public cloud destinations as well. That's the plan.
With this sitting in the public cloud like that,
Are you able to integrate all this, and then we see people moving with all the hybrid, sort of the hybrid workforce now, right? People working from home. Can I extend my traditional NSX policy to machines over just public internet now with that, and secure people working remotely from home? Or is it only like a?
So at initial availability, the NSX is only available for NSX managers running in local data centers. The next stage is they will be available for the VMware Cloud hyperscaler locations, and the third stage is the public cloud.
Okay.
After that, we will figure out the edge locations and the workspaces. It is part of the plan, but we don't have something concrete. The architecture supports it, but we don't have something concrete released yet.
Cool. Thank you.
So when you say going to support on VMC, or you're saying the hyperscalers, would it also be on the Microsoft offering and the Google, or just VMC and AWS?
So again, I'm not allowed to share roadmap publicly, but what I can tell you there is these innovations are planned. VMC on AWS is slightly ahead. So you will actually see it releasing on VMC on AWS pretty soon.
Okay.
Is what our hope is, and then the hyperscalers will follow. But we are already working with all the hyperscalers to enable this functionality.
Can you talk a little bit about the delta between what's offered on your pre-existing solution and what you're delivering new in this particular capability, and what customer demand drove you to create that?
Great question. So what we are offering in the existing solution, this is just an overarching SaaS option for managing the existing solution. So the existing solution, still the NSX, you can still install it on premise in your data center locations, and life is good. You have a choice to onboard it and manage it from SaaS, or you have a choice to manage it on your own. It's a choice the customer can make. And we will continue to support both what we call disconnected offers for customers who don't want to do anything with SaaS, and connected offers for customers who want to leverage this multi-cloud capability. So the sweet spot for the customers would be any customers who have who don't want to manage the global manager or the manager of managers on their own. They want to basically delegate the lifecycle management for those components to NSX. Sweet spot would be customers who don't want to install the data platform for the analytics on premise, and any customer who has a VMC and an NSX local manager today, and they already have institutionalized policies on NSX, and they just want to extend that to multi-cloud. The offering is good for them right now. And then, as you saw, the vision is a lot of new things are going to come here. So, but we will always support both disconnected and connected offers, because we have a lot of government customers and people who have data residency concerns. Okay, the last service I want to talk about is the HCX Plus. For those who don't know what HCX is our hybrid mobility service. So very, very popular for customers who want to move workloads around. So if you're doing a data center refresh project, or if you want to move from on-premise to a hyperscaler, you want to bulk move thousands of VMs, that's where HCX kind of comes in. So we're launching a service offering for HCX as well. So you have a unified console to basically do lifecycle management for your migrations, and you can see how the migrations are doing across clouds. Maybe you have set up migrations to go from on-prem 1 to VMC 1, from on-prem 2 to VMC 2. You want to be able to see everything from a single pane of glass. So that's what HCX Plus will give you. So these are the 5 services. You are going to see a lot of details on these 5 services in the various presentations. This is a very technical slide. I think I'm over time, but let me just hone a point that all the brownfield customers can take advantage of NSX Plus. There is no migration required. All they have to do is upgrade to the latest code, which is 4.1.1. Once you are on 4.1.1, you have a choice to subscribe to any of these NSX Plus services. Your local managers, you continue to manage as you're managing them today. And the SaaS part, the VMware SREs will manage it for you. If you want to know more, we have all the 30-minute demos. But if you want to still know more, This is a list of NSX Plus sessions at VM Explore, which you can attend and deep dive into. I just want to conclude this session by saying that NSX Plus is a foray into the path to multi-cloud. We'll be able to provide SaaS-delivered network and security policy management across multiple locations. We'll be able to bring the advanced security and analytics goodness of NSX into the hybrid cloud and the multi-cloud and analyze threats across clouds. And we'll be able to simplify NSX operations with NSX Plus.